It is with great pleasure that I come here to shed light on the visionary initiatives of Mavericks Academy, founded in the early months of 2023. The Academy was established with a singular ambition to set the standards for excellence in preparing students for the most challenging competitive examination in the state. At the core of Mavericks Academy is an esteemed academic team comprising highly qualified and experienced educators from our state. These compassionate and dedicated mentors are committed to providing aspirants with top-notch education, unwavering guidance, and unparalleled mentorship. Hey viewers, welcome to the second episode of the Mavericks Aspirant podcast, where we speak all you need to know about the competitive examination trends and system that shapes the journey of an aspiring candidate. So let's dive in and start this enriching discussion. Today we have with us a mentor who will provide valuable insights and guidance in pursuing their dreams of excelling in competitive examination. Guidance in pursuing the dreams of excelling in competitive examination. So thank you so much, sir, for considering to come to the show. We would like to know your name and something about yourself.
Hi, I'm WANGKOM. I'm working in the Directorate of Tribal Affairs, and I'm also one of the faculties in the Mavericks Academy. I teach Indian history. And coming to my exam journey, I started my NPSC preparation quite late. I did my graduation in 2011, and I took up coaching only in 2017. My aspirations were somewhere else. I always wanted to be in the military. I tried there, could not make it. So I started my coaching in 2017, and so far I have already written 6 mains. I've been to interview 3-4 times, and fortunately I was able to clear it only in 2022.
Okay.
And yes, I'm working in the Directorate of Tribal Affairs now.
Okay, so you are also part of the mentor in Mavericks Academy, is it not?
Yes. I teach Indian history.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for sharing. It is an immense pleasure to get to know you and have you here with us, and we look forward to engaging into a meaningful conversation further. So one of the questions that I want to stress is also that, can you describe some experiences or changes you made that directly contributed to your success, and what techniques or practices do you use to enhance your self-confidence and self-esteem?
You see, failure teaches a lot of things in life. It is a bitter pill to swallow. You will get a lot of judgment from people, from your juniors, seniors, from family, clan, community.
Right.
But I think the best thing is to accept everything in humility. For example, if a junior gives you some suggestion or feedback, as I've mentioned, it is a very bitter pill to swallow. But then, if it makes 1% sense to me, I make sure that I work on all these. For example, the best example is I have a very slow handwriting.
Okay.
So in the first 2 months, I could not even complete my essay papers, and also the paper 2, there is a descriptive paper. So initially I did not take the advice from my friends on practicing handwriting. I thought I'm okay to go with. But then, seeing 2 failures in a row, I decided to take their advice as well. So this is how I start my writing practices. I would set a timer, and then when it comes to writing, especially the essay and the general studies answer and question, my answer and my essay, there was no head and tail.
Okay.
So my friends would suggest to make certain changes. So I shamelessly would go to them, ask for their essays, and then that is how we learn through humility. If you are arrogant, so we cannot learn from arrogance. So these are a small step. I think the suggestions that I took from my friends, and I think there is a few areas where I really work on myself.
That's a valid point that you raised. I think, some key components can also include self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and effective communication skills, and positive attitude towards personal growth. That's very important. And another question is, what are some common traits or qualities that successful individuals often possess? What do you feel so, sir?
Success does not come easy for anyone.
Right.
Every individual has their own share of struggle in some way or the other. They have their own shares of struggle for every aspirant. But one common thing that we will notice in people who have already cleared the exam multiple times, or for those people who have cleared once, twice, they will have one common thread. There is the first thing is their determination. Their determination will always be top notch. And then if we observe them, they always have the humility to learn from everyone.
Strong work ethic.
Yes, humility to learn from everyone, and then the adaptability to changes. And then of course their perseverance we cannot imagine. And then last and the most important thing is that they will always be consistent no matter what kind of result they see today. They will already start working for the next exam. So consistency and then hard work is always there.
Right. They should have the ability to learn from failures.
Yes.
That's what you meant. So can you provide examples of how effective communication skills is important from the exam point of view?
It is always an added advantage if your communication skill is good. For example, whatever we speak out, or for that matter, whatever we write down in a paper, it comes from what we think or how we think. So for example, NPSC, for that matter, civil services composed of 3 stages: the prelims, the mains, and also the viva. So in the mains, everything is to do with writing. If you don't have good writing ability, for example, we mentioned about communication. Communication also comes from whatever we are thinking inside. So does writing. Whatever you write in the exam paper, it also comes from whatever you are thinking in your brain. There is one advantage in the descriptive paper, and then of course the viva. If you have a strong command over your communication, you always have the edge above the others. And then when we see the result of NPSC, fraction of marks differs. It is only the fraction of mark that will divide those who clear the exam and those who doesn't clear the exam. It also divides which post you get it.
Okay. No, that's something interesting. I never knew about that. And I'm sure the viewers will also likely share with the same sentiments that you shared. So, in your opinion, sir, how would you think is emotional and mental support from the family important in the journey of an aspirant?
In fact, I feel like that is the most important thing, that this is an advice for the parents. If they have any of their words preparing for civil services or any other exam. I still remember a student of mine calling me up at night. She was very frustrated. I said, you're only 24 and you cannot be frustrated about the exam journey. You still have a long way to go.
Right.
And then her answer was that, very simple. Sir, I have a lot of pressure from the community. They started comparing with people who have already cleared. So you get the label of a failed person. So this is where the support of the parents emotionally, mentally, physically is very important. I think this is one area where we lack. So I feel like, so the parents, the siblings, if you have anyone who is preparing for exam, then they should be mentally, emotionally, physically available to help, to assist, to guide, to encourage them. And then one advice that I would like to give to people who are facing this kind of a problem, of course it is a very common trend. If you fail in 1-2 attempts, people start to judge you.
Right.
Nobody knows what kind of emotional and mental state you are in.
Right.
So my best advice is, it is better not to react. Better not to react. When you react, you give them pleasure to laugh upon you. So it is, the best thing is avoid it. Do what is good for you. Keep working.
It definitely resonates with me because what do you feel about some parents or some guardians that consistently compare their children to another? Because it's very common when it comes to family pressures, How do you have to say about that?
See, that is what I was discussing. Comparison should not be there.
Yeah.
Every single individual have their own time. We don't know what is written in our destiny.
Right.
Someone might be very good in studies, necessarily doesn't mean that he or she is meant to be in the civil service. Of course, if you want or if you aspire to clear the civil services or any competitive exam, you should work for it. If you cannot clear it, do some other thing. Life is not only about NPSC. And then I feel like the parents, especially the parent, they should stop comparing.
Right.
That someone has already got a job, you are still preparing. It happened with me. It happened with me. Even my own family members, they would say, I think you are not meant to be in NPSC. But then deep down, it's very hurtful when your own parents, your family members start talking to you in that way,
Right.
it is very emotionally very hurtful. But the best thing you can do is we pray in silence and keep working.
I mean, they should learn how to help us with our stress and anxiety and, you know, setbacks effectively. That's what I feel. They should also help us with all these pressures, because we tend to get a lot of pressures growing up, especially, you know, attempting competitive exams several times and failing it. So that's a valid point that you raised. The next question for you, sir, is how do you handle setbacks and failures in the way that supports your goals?
Nobody likes failure. It is a very, bitter pill to swallow. But then there's no point crying over a spilled milk. The best thing we can do is keep improving, make changes, adapt to changes, keep working on areas where we feel we lack
Right.
in the last attempt.
Right.
And the question that we need to ask is, why did we even start the journey if we have to give up so easily? One of the setback that I've seen in the young aspirants or the fresh aspirants is that they tend to give up very easily. They tend to give up on the exams, on their journey very easily. Sometimes what they do is that, suppose the exam did not go well this time, and then they'll take a very long break. So if there's no consistency, then it hampers or it is a setback for the preparation. So one advice is one should not take a very long break from the studies, especially for fresh aspirants. We have seen in NPSC that most of the people who clear prelims are those who have gone for mains or who have went for interview, because the syllabus is almost the same. It is just some omission and addition of some syllabus.
Okay. You mean they have to keep identifying areas for improvement and refocusing goals which will renew their determination and resilience?
Yes, indeed. They have to try to find out the areas where they are weak in. Instead of crying over whatever happened,
Right.
there's no point, because those failed attempts, the results are not coming back.
Right.
They should focus more on what is on the upcoming examinations,
Right.
and then keep working.
So talking about resilience, sir, can you discuss the role of resilience and adaptability in overcoming challenges and achieving success?
The stakes are very high in any competitive exam. So we cannot sit and cry over whatever failed attempt that we have made.
Right.
We should keep on working on improving those areas where we feel we lack in the last attempt. And when it comes to adaptability, we have seen in the current trends of NPSC, there is a shift in the pattern of questions that are being asked. NPSC does not focus on facts anymore. So we should adapt to the conceptual learning now.
Okay.
So there is one area where, when it comes to adaptability, there is one area that we need to work on. There is changes in the syllabus, there is change in the questions, not in the syllabus, but in the way the questions are being framed. So we need to focus on the areas, and we should adapt to changes that are being adopted in various examinations.
Truly, your perspective mirrors my own, because I also feel it enables individual to bounce back from ultimately leading to success. So the next question for you, sir, is how do you stay motivated and focused on your goals during the times of uncertainty and adversity, and how does this contribute to your personal development?
You see, we are not sure about our result. Nobody can be very confident that I'll be clearing exam this time or next time. For some, it takes years and years to clear examination. So we should not be waiting for the outcome. No matter the outcome, we should already prepare for the next phase. Whether the result is good or bad this time, if you are really determined to clear exam, then you will have another attempt. So we should keep working instead of waiting for the result. As I've already mentioned, no one is sure about the result. Whatever is coming, let it come. We keep on working.
In a way, we should maintain a growth mindset.
Yes.
And which contributes to personal growth and development, you mean?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. What strategies would you advise or suggest in order to maintain focus and motivation during long study sessions and intense preparation period?
Everyone has their own strategy. One size doesn't fit all. So for everyone to clear exam, they have to maintain a very long focus. They have to maintain consistency. So for me, I have no particular technique or for that matter any strategy that I adopt to maintain the perseverance. The best way is that your dream should be big enough that you keep on working. But if you talk about our day-to-day routine, I feel that in order to get motivation, you should listen to people who have already cleared exam, or you should listen to people who have failed in their many attempts. So that is how you keep on motivating and keep on tracking yourself.
It's great to know your thoughts on this matter. Thank you, sir. In what ways do you address and overcome distractions or mental fatigue in order to stay on track and focus on exam preparation?
You see, when it comes to exam preparation, every single one, if you are very unlucky that you did not clear in the first attempt, then the mental fatigue will always be there. So the best thing is to, keep in touch with someone who can motivate you. Keep in touch with your parents, your siblings, your friends of the same circle who can understand your problem. But for me, I pray in silence. So prayer is one area where I always focus. I don't have to proclaim to the world that I'm doing this. So when you are under stress, duress, mental fatigue, then I just have a time of my own. Or maybe I'll just call up some close friends and discuss about lives, what is going on, how things should be done. And then I'm very lucky to have a very good circle of friends, especially those who are preparing for examinations. So we can relate. So the best thing would be to talk to someone with whom you can actually relate about your problems.
Your input adds an interesting dimension to the discussion. I'm truly learning something today. Thank you, sir. Something about history I would like to stress on. I would also like to know, how did you shift your subject matter from politics to history?
Yes, indeed, I did my graduation from political science, but I'm a faculty of Indian history. So it is not that I suddenly shifted from political science to history. I always had the liking for the subject since my 11. So my interest was always there. So this is how I started teaching Indian history.
Oh, that's interesting. And what do you think is studying history important for competitive exams, sir?
If you check the syllabus, especially of NPSC, history plays a very major role. The major chunk of the marks, or for that matter, the major chunk of the questions are from history. For example, in prelims, it includes ancient, medieval, modern. So out of 200 questions, 30 to 40 questions come from history alone. And when we see the men's paper 1, out of 200 questions, at least 40 to 50 questions comes from modern history alone. Right. So I feel like history plays a major role. If you want to really clear exam, you cannot avoid history.
No, that's very true, sir. Because it also provides foundational understanding of civilization, cultures, events, and their impact on societies, analyzing patterns and draw insights from exam questions. That's what I also feel. One question I would like to stress is, are there any specific historical figures and prominent leaders that are frequently mentioned in competitive examination?
If I am to mention about prominent leaders and figures, I would like to segregate the history into three parts: ancient, medieval, and modern. When we study ancient history, obviously we study about the IBC, we study about the Mauryan dynasty, especially we study about Ashoka in the Mauryan dynasty and post-Mauryan dynasties, and then we study about the Guptas, the Sangam period. In medieval, likewise, we study about the Muslim rules, especially the invasion of Sind. We study about the Delhi Sultanate, the Mughals. But when we come to modern history, there are many leaders where I can stress on, but since this is not a class, I cannot go discussing about one or two prominent figures. But if you check the syllabus of NPSC, Civil Services, there is two names that is very clearly mentioned about Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru. So I feel like this has to be studied in detail. Right. Whatever you know about them, grabs it. But if you are talking about prominent leaders, we have many leaders. We need to know the INC leaders. Subhash Chandra Bose, for example, For example, your Pal Gangadhar Tilak. These people were very instrumental. We have to know who were the socialist leaders, who were the liberal leaders. So there are many leaders, so I cannot actually focus on one particular area.
Right.
But if I have to point out someone, then since NPSC has already mentioned in the syllabus, Gandhi and Nehru is one area where you cannot leave any stone unturned. Yes.
Okay. Kindly tell us, how can an in-depth study of history enhance an aspirant's performance in competitive exams compared to superficial understanding?
See, the days of asking factual questions are tales of the past. Now what we have seen is that rote memorization won't suffice anymore for clearing any exams. You need to have a very conceptual understanding, conceptual clarity, historical backgrounds of all the events. We have, as I've already mentioned, we have seen a shift in the pattern of questions that are being asked in NPSC. So we need to delve a little deeper into history if we want to expect good scores. But you have to throw a balance. You cannot do PhD when you're preparing for examination. So you need to know as to how deep you need to go. And I think this can only come through experience. If you start doing research or PhD in history, then you will not have time for other subjects.
Right.
So certain areas you have to know where you need to go a little deeper. Certain areas you have to know, certain topics you have to know that you need to study only the surface level. So yes, in fact, with the shift in the pattern of questions, that you need to have a little deeper understanding of history. As I've mentioned, rote memorization, facts memorization is not going to help you get good marks.
Right. Your thoughts adds an intriguing layer to the discussion, and that's what I truly believe. Because it does. I experienced that firsthand. You cannot do two things at the same time parallel.
Yes.
That's very true, sir. Another question for you, sir, is can you suggest some recommended resource or study material for aspirants looking to delve deeper knowledge for history for competitive exams?
You see, if we see in the market, there are lots and lots of books written by so many authors, but we don't have the liberty of the time to go through all the books. So some few recommended books that I would suggest is like for ancient and medieval, there's no other better book than is going through the NCERT. And also these Tamil Nadu board books are also quite handful. And when it comes to modern history, Spectrum is one of the best choice that an aspirant can offer. And if you want to have a little deeper understanding of history, Struggle of Indian Independence by Bipin Chandra and others, that is also very handful. It's a very thick book. You cannot go through all of it, but then there are certain extracts from that book that you can, it can really have a value addition in your exam preparation.
Right. And we can also go through previous year's question papers for comprehensive preparation and museum, visiting the museum, reviewing the archives. I think.
Yes, indeed. I think one area that the aspirant usually ignore is going through the previous year question. Right. Going through the previous year questions help you in understanding what kind of questions will be asked. Certain topics are repeated in exams as well. So where to study, what kind of questions are being asked. And then the other thing that we can do is we should always attempt mock tests. And when it comes to history, I will never suggest an aspirant to go for MCQ books. It is not helpful. Maybe for the last minute revision, you can have that book. But as the best book for history, if you are depending on an MCQ book, then it's a devastation.
So talking of which, sir, could you also explain why it is necessary to understand the division of Indian history?
See, when we talk about Indian history, it is divided into four. The ancient, the medieval, the modern and postmodern. So it is necessary to understand the division of history because the syllabus clearly mentions about it. For example, not much of a question, or for that matter, no questions are being asked from the postmodern history. So there is no point wasting time there. If you know the division of history, for example, if we study ancient history, we start from the Paleolithic age and we study Dil the Medieval, we start from the invasion of Sin and then we go deal the advent of the Europeans. So this too comes only in prelims. So if you start studying ancient and medieval in the men's exam, then you're wasting your time. Modern starts from 1600, that is the advent of the European, till the independence. So if you know the division of history, you also know what to study in what part of the examination. For prelims, you study all, but for men's, you start to avoid the other two part, that is ancient and medieval. And when it comes to postmodern, so far I haven't seen any question that is being asked, especially when it comes to NPSC.
So, sir, can you share some tips on how to effectively study the history for competitive exams?
You see, there's no single sites that fits all. Everyone has their own strategy. So at least from my point of view, I always tell the students to study history like stories. The first and foremost thing is that you have to arrange it chronologically. The history has to be studied chronologically. If you don't link one incident with another, one events with another, then history goes heavier. So you cannot find the connecting links in history. So for example, when we study about the Nehru Committee, we have to go back to 1919. Nehru Committee resulted because the Indian people did not support the recommendations that were given by the Simon Commission. Simon Commission was established based on the provision of the Government of India Act 1919. So this is how we are supposed to link events and incidents. So when I say study chronologically, we have to know the events from the start to the end. And the second thing is that there are lots of dates, there are lots of names in history. And it is very difficult to memorize all the facts and figures at one go. So what I usually do is, the young people, the young aspirants, they are very good in remembering parties. So I always advise them to link their friend's birthday with certain important events. There is always a date that is clashing. For example, your birthday is on a certain day. So there might be some important incident or event that took place in Indian history. So they have to link that Indian history incident with your friend's birthday. So this is how I try to memorize all the dates. Otherwise, so many facts and figures, we don't have any chips installed in our brain, so it's very difficult to memorize everything. And the most important thing is that you have to make notes. The Indian history textbook, if you check, it is very bulky. So just by looking at the textbook, you will not feel like studying. So you need to make a very concise notes. When your advertisement is out for examination, that is when you should start your revision. And if you're going through all the textbook, the bulky textbook, you don't have enough time to cover. When you have already made a concise notes, then it is easier for you to revise, and it is better when you study from your own handwriting.
Right.
The first thing that an aspirant can do when you start your modern history, I always advise my students to start writing down the names of all the governor generals, all the viceroys in a very chronological order. We have seen in exams that just the name of the governor generals, or for that matter the viceroys, are given and you are made to arrange chronologically. So when you don't know the sequence in which they hold the office of the governor general or viceroy, then it is very difficult for you to get the answer. And most importantly, revision. You might have all the good notes in this world. You might have the best material. You might have the best notes. But if you don't revise before examination, then that's a blunder.
You mean in a way that you need to learn how to make connections between historical events and make notes?
Yes. One way of remembering the dates is like, as I've mentioned, I try to link with certain important dates in my life to that of Indian history, so that it is easier for me to remember something. Otherwise, just trying to memorize the dates directly from Indian history becomes a little difficult. So I try to link with events that took place in my life in Indian history. For example, if I know your birthday,
Right.
I'll link your birthday with one incident from Indian history.
Right.
If I remember the birthday of someone else, my friends, then I try to link those birthday with the important event that took place. That is just my way of remembering dates.
Thank you, sir. Engaging in discussions like this deepens understanding and retention further. I've learned a lot, seriously. I have a last question for you, which is, what is the best advice you would give to others looking to enhance their preparation on the road to success?
See, the best advice that I can give to an aspirant is that the first and foremost thing is that you identify your weak areas. And this identification can be done only when you catch your marks. I'm sure all the aspirants are aware that you can catch your marks in NPSC. For example, the men's marks can be available in NPSC. Collect the marks and try to figure out in those areas where you are not good. And the second advice that I would give is, for example, if you are good in a particular subject, you are a master's or you have a specialization in certain subject, and there's no point wasting time there. Give less time in those subjects where you are already good, but try to work on those areas where you are lacking. And one of the biggest mistake that an aspirant can do is not practicing writing. For example, your essay writing, your answer writing. So when we talk about answer writing and essay writing, we take it very lightly. We studied in an English medium school, we have been writing essays, but when it comes to NPSC, it is totally different. When I say practice writing, I'm talking about not only the quality, I'm also talking about the speed of your handwriting. The times are very limited. You have to attempt so many questions. I'm talking from my own experience. So if you have a very slow handwriting, then you will be doomed in the examination. So the best thing is practice writing not only on the quality and the points of the essay or the answer, but also on the clarity and also the speed of your handwriting. Last and the most important advice that I would like to give to the student is that, you see, for most of us Nagas, especially those from humanity background, we are very bad in CSAT. I'm talking about myself in particular. So what we do is that we outrightly reject CSAT as if it does not exist in exam. So one advice that I would give is, if you can score some points in CSAT, try to practice and learn something, then it is always an advantage. For people from mathematics background, for people from economics and statistics, they have good grips of CSAT, so they always have the advantage. So people from humanity background, we are very bad in CSAT, I'm included here. So we have to focus and practice and just not outrightly reject the CSAT portion.
First thing first, I want to give some credits to our loyal listeners for tuning in. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you, sir, for coming over. We have learned a lot of things today, and I'm sure that the insights and valuable knowledge that you have imparted tonight, the listeners have also learned something today. I've learned a lot of things which I've never knew or have thought before, and I'm sure that this is going to be very helpful for a lot of people aspiring, competitive exams, and not just that, but personality development in the long run. So thank you so much once again for tuning in. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. We hope to see you for the next episode. Thank you.